Hi, and welcome to 12th grade with Timberdoodle in 2026. I'm Pearl, I'm here with my sister Grace, and we are here to walk you through each item that we've chosen to include in our 12th grade curriculum kit. Yes, so let's take a look at language arts first. We have Implications of Literature. This is going to be the Trailblazer edition, and this is a focus on British literature. It's an anthology for 12th graders, a beautiful selection of different novellas, stories, essays, poetry, and drama, including things like Macbeth. The focus portion of each section I really love because it's going to really draw your students' attention into things like dramatic monologue, epic poetry. So it gives it a particular focus, and then you jump into these different selections. It'll give you a before you read intro, so you know a little bit about the author, a little bit about why the selection was chosen. And then it's got so many helpful questions and definitions alongside. So even if all you do is sit down and read it, you're growing your vocabulary and growing your understanding and just your culture, understanding different selections of literature. But then it also has all these different prompts to take it further. So you've looked at something, you've read something, understood a little bit about the author, a little bit about the selection and the focus, and then it's going to give you a reader writing prompt that the student can put in their journal to help them, again, kind of explain, why was this irony, or where did you see this in the story, or why do you think he made that decision? So again, just driving it deeper and really putting some critical thinking into this selection. So why did Timberdoodle choose Implications of Literature? Well, obviously we love how rich it is in critical thinking, how rich the literary selections are. And then, of course, it is very wholesome. And so it's just a beautiful thing to hand off to your child and say, read this and not have to worry about what kind of influence it's going to have on the student, because it is coming from a non-religious but a very wholesome worldview. Let's talk about Wordsmith Craftsman. So, I don't know what's on the horizon for your student. I know some students will be heading off to college, some will be jumping into their first career. Whatever is ahead for your student, writing skills is an important part of that, and Wordsmith Craftsman really handles that in a very practical way. So part 1 focuses on everyday writing like notes or letters or business correspondence. Part 2 focuses on the craft of it with paragraph structure or tone or voice. And part 3 works on essays, which is going to be an important skill if your student is heading into college instruction.
Yeah.
Regardless of what direction your student plans to go, Wordsmith Craftsman is a very practical resource for him to be building his skills and learning to express himself in writing.
And we really appreciate that it's not a fluffy, drawn out writing course. It's very succinct and very practical in its approach.
Yes, perfect for a busy 12th grader wrapping up his high school time. So along the same lines of practical, not too fluffy, we have the Easy Grammar Ultimate for grade 12. This is a perfect review for students who have covered grammar before. It's also a really good refresher for students who are still a little rough on their grammar. Wonderful resource, again, as your student is looking to graduation, to make sure his grammar is polished for whatever the next steps are.
And lastly, in language arts, we have My Year of Writing. And this is really excellent for stirring some of that creative thought and creative writing, all in a very easy, no pressure, one bite-sized assignment per day. So you've got 365 different prompts. You can choose to either do the whole thing, or you can split it out and let your student just do it on school days and do their favorite ones. But it's going to have some great prompts that really get your student thinking, such as if you were creating a machine to make your life easier, what is it? Or if you're describing a dog to an alien who's never seen one, how would you describe it? So a lot of humor, a lot of just interesting different things, and you're going to end up with kind of a time capsule of your students' thoughts that year. Cuts through the blank page dread and the I don't want to write about it, and really just gives them some confidence and turns on both sides of their brain at the same time.
Yes, and if you talk to any professional writers, you're going to get lots of good advice, but one piece of advice that you're going to hear a fair amount is just write, just keep writing. And this is something that can get your team in the habit of writing every day.
Okay, let's take a look at math. So for math this year, you have Math UC Calculus. And if you have a student who is ready for calculus, as the teacher, you are going to want something that is fully student friendly and takes the pressure off you as the teacher if you're anything like me. So this is a wonderful program for that, because not only is the workbook clear and cleanly laid out and very very nice in its presentation, not overwhelming and cluttered, but it also includes the DVD instruction, which is just an absolute lifesaver at this level, to have Steve Demme clearly walk a student through concept by concept. It's mastery based, and your student can watch the DVD lesson and then go do their workbook pages. It's also got the teacher's manual right there if you do need any extra support with that, but we really appreciate that the DVD lessons are going to take the pressure off of you as a teacher. If you're not sure if your student is ready for calculus, if they've not been doing Math UC all along, hop online, do a placement test, and that will help you figure out exactly where they land in the Math UC program.
We're also going to show you a short clip just so you can get an idea of why we love these videos so much, why we think they're going to be such a help for your student.
I'm going to say y equals the log base A of x. Now we know that that is identical to a to the y equals x. But the inverse would be, remember how you find the inverse? You switch or reverse the variables. So in this case, we would have the inverse of this would not, I mean, this is the same, but the inverse would be a to the x equals y, because we inverse or invert the variables, okay? And the same thing when we have y equals the natural logarithm of x, and we know that the natural logarithm is the same as log to the e, base e. So I'm going to go put the e in here, because then this would be the same as e to the y equals e to the y equals x. But the inverse would be, switch these or reverse these, e to the x equals y, or y equals e to the x, okay? Now, in this unit, we're going to be solving for unknowns.
All right, let's talk next about thinking skills. Now, you know that understanding what the philosophers had to say, and you know that understanding where they are correct and where they are incorrect is important. But for some of you, that might be a little daunting. For others, it might be exciting. Either way, Philosophy Adventure has you and your student covered. It's a full high school credit, and it walks through the ideas of many philosophers and compares them with scripture side by side. So it's an award-winning curriculum, and it's one that you're going to want to allow your student to work slowly through throughout the year, so that he can really work through the portions that require him to write about it, that require him to think about it. He's really going to understand the viewpoints of these philosophers, why it matters, and where it compares and contrasts with the biblical worldview.
Yeah, and we really appreciate how it builds thinkers. It teaches them how to think these things through and how to write about them, not just to read and regurgitate.
Now, as we've talked about, this is a course that compares it with the biblical worldview. It includes a lot of scripture, so it's only in our classic or faith-based kits. We do have another logic resource that is in both our classic and our normal religious kits, and Grace is going to tell us about that.
Yes, so let's take a look at the Life of Fred logic. So this is a thorough logic course, but it's also hilarious. It's full of witty humor, funny little asides that really draw your teen in so that he wants to keep going with it. But it is a college level logic textbook. Again, it's also accessible because it's split. So you can either do the first 6 chapters, that's your high school logic course, or you can do the entire book, all 16 chapters, and now they have finished a logic course for college. So really appreciate that about it. Love the thoroughness of what they're covering in this course. So not only are they going to just do an overview of logic, they're going to get to really look at some of the different logic concepts that will help shape their thinking and help them to be able to spot different fallacies, help them to be able to speak logically, and all in a witty, weird, thorough manner.
Yes, and I think that it's a very unique thing that you can have not just fallacies, which is incredible, but fallacies and a lot of formal logic in a way that is so friendly and so teen friendly.
Next, we have the hands-on portion. This is Smart Games IQ Pentagon, and this is a solo spatial logic puzzle. They're going to have to fit all the pieces onto a 5-sided board. There's 120 challenges, so you're not going to run out of brain breaks / logic puzzles, double-sided pieces, pentagon shape. These are so much fun to put together because they feel great. It's got this shiny, it's hard to describe, but it feels great in your hands, and it's got this very mature color scheme going on so that your teen is not going to feel like, oh, I'm doing a little kid game. And then the challenges are not going to feel like a little kid game. It's going to take them all the way through to these extreme levels where they're really having to think it through. But thankfully, it starts out a little bit easier, giving them some prompts of already filled in pieces, and then they have to fill in the rest. It's really going to work on spatial reasoning and logic in a hands-on format. So absolutely love these very high quality puzzle games.
Now let's take a look at our multiplayer game. So we like to include a multiplayer game that has a strong strategy component.
And this one does.
It does. So you're trying to move your pieces one at a time to match the color board. However, to move a piece, you have to remember and pick up a certain color of other piece, which makes it really tricky when your opponent shuffles those. You'll see more as you watch the How to Play video, but for now, just know there's going to be a lot of memory, a lot of taking your best guess and hoping, and a lot of interpersonal interaction as your opponent shuffles your pieces again.
To start, place the game board between both players. Then each player scrambles their opponent's code cubes. Next, each player places the colored game pieces on any space that does not match the colored game pieces, leaving the dark blue end space open. The objective of each player is to get all color cubes on their side of the board on the correct color space. To start, the youngest goes first. On each turn, players will reveal to themselves a color of one of the code cubes, and then return back to its hidden alignment. Then, this specified colored game piece is moved to the single open space on their side of the game board. Play continues back and forth, revealing code cubes and moving game pieces to open spaces. When a player successfully places a game piece onto a matching colored space, this game piece is locked in.
Next up in our faith-based or our classic kits, we have The Reason for God by Tim Keller. Tim Keller tackles the hardest questions about faith head on, but with such a gentle honesty that it is just so winsome and so helpful. The first half is going to deal with objections to Christianity, suffering, hell, exclusive truth claims, and religious violence. And then the second half builds a case for belief. It's thoughtful, logical, and theologically rich. It's not light reading, but we consider this an essential before graduation. These are questions that your teen is going to tackle. They're going to wrestle with themselves, and they're going to meet people wrestling with these questions. And this is going to give them not only answers and a helpful way to reason through these questions, but it gives them examples of doing it with confidence and grace. And we absolutely love the way Tim Keller does that. Okay, let's take a look at history. So for history this year, we have two different options, one in our faith-based and one in our non-religious. So for the faith-based or the classic kit, we've got Knotgrass Exploring World History. So this is going to be a beautiful look at creation through the present, and it can be up to 3 high school credits if you want to do the literary and Bible components at the same time that they have all the instructions and recommendations for in there. It's going to be 30 weekly units. It's got summaries, Bible memory, writing, literature, and then optional projects. But we absolutely love how well laid out the full color pictures, the conversational text. It's just going to draw your student in and really help them understand history, and with this world perspective to understand what's going on in history at the same time as as they're looking at different Bible stories and accounts and understanding what else was going on in the world at that time period. So a helpful look, built for independence so your teen can take the wheel, and then it's got source documents and original voices that bring history to life. So really appreciate the way this is done and the usability of it, where you can adapt it to your schedule and make it as deep as you want it to be.
Absolutely, and it includes the student review book, so your student has that natural built-in to help him remember what he's reading. And there really is very little like Knotgrass, where it can be this hefty textbook and yet be so absorbing because of the way it's written and because of the different illustrations and photographs they've included.
And then for our non-religious kids, we have the Nomadic Professor World History 1 and 2. Fully online world history, 2000 BC to modern day. It has on-location footage, which is just absolutely going to draw your student in to these different history lessons because you're seeing around the globe what those locations are like. 100 different sessions, video lectures, readings, guided notes, primary documents, and we really appreciate it's got 3 different tracks. So you can either do the basic, the standard, or the advanced if you want to be doing this extra credits or you have a student who's really getting into it. You do the advanced. If you've got a student who just wants to meet the qualifications, then you can go with the basic track. So again, a lot of flexibility. Why does Timberdoodle like Nomadic Professor? Well, not only is it including all this rich source text and the video, and also having the audio version so you can have it read to your student on the reading portion. So I really appreciate the flexibility there, but also it involves so much critical thinking, teaching your student to think these things through as they're learning about history so that it's not just read and regurgitate, but it's actually giving them the critical thinking side of things as well.
Even their tholos tombs, the Minoans built these beehive-like tombs called tholos tombs. And we start to see those crop up here among the Mycenaeans as well. In fact, I'm standing at the top of probably the most famous Mycenaean tholos tomb of all, the so-called Tomb of Agamemnon, or Treasury of Atreus. This here is a tholos tomb. This is the Treasury of Atreus. Massive, awe-inspiring megalithic structure. You go in there and it's just incredible. The beehive roof, the size of some of these stones, the masonry, quite advanced, and again, very awe-inspiring. No evidence that this was ever a treasury, let alone the Tomb of Atreus or the Tomb of Agamemnon. None of the tholos tombs around here, and there are several, have labels or inscriptions on them that identify whose tomb they are. None of them have been found with anything. They've all been looted probably many times over. This tholos tomb, the Treasury of Atreus, has been open. In other words, it's been unburied.
All right, we also want your student to graduate from high school understanding economics. This is very important, both for looking at economics on the small scale in his own life and in the larger scale in our world. For the classic or the faith-based kids, we have Exploring Economics from Knotgrass. And just like the Knotgrass World History, this is a course that is going to be very absorbing for your student, regardless of how he thinks an economic course will be. He can earn a half credit in economics, and if he'd like, he can also earn up to a half credit in English as well, with the different novels and things, activities that he can add in. Super course to give your student an understanding of economics this year. Now, if you're purchasing our non-religious kits, you have the Thinkwell Honors Economics. Super course, all online, lots of videos, assignments that your student will submit online. Again, wonderful, thorough, very practical thing for your student to understand for his own life and as he hears the news and tries to understand the world around him.
Okay, and let's take a look at a short video clip just so you can see why we like this economics course for your student.
The opportunity cost of a choice is the best alternative you give up when you make that choice. For instance, if you go to your economics class one morning, the best alternative might have been an extra hour's worth of sleep. Rather than staying in bed and sleeping, you chose to come to your economics class instead. The sleep was the opportunity cost of your choice. If you are enrolled in college this year, you're getting a good education, which might be satisfying.
Let's talk about science. So why does science matter? Well, science matters for many reasons. But one very practical way for you to help your students see that science matters is with the Medical Investigations 101 course. So your student will be completing 37 investigations looking at symptoms, patient histories, exams, diagnosis, and treatment, and he will be pulling together scientific understanding of anatomy to help the text make a diagnosis on these patients. Super practical skills for his future, whether it's for his own medical issues or for those of family or friends. And it teaches teens to think like a doctor, to ask the right questions, to sort through symptoms, reason until they reach a diagnosis, really tying in the critical thinking with the science in a way that it helps your students see that science actually matters to life.
And next, in our faith-based kits, in our classic kits, we have the Intro to Forensic Science. And this is from a biblical worldview. It is a full year forensic science course. And this is really going to pull in so much different science and help them see how it is real life science as well. So 34 different lessons, from things like fingerprints to DNA to toxicology. They are going to work through real criminal case studies, famous and obscure, solved and unsolved, and be applying these different sciences to these cases. So a very practical look at science, very engaging, because you're reading about so many things, whether it's different bugs or genetics, whatever it is you're looking at and figuring out and working on these cases with the different scientific disciplines. So really appreciate the thoroughness, love the wholesomeness. It's all tied back into scripture, and it's more than just a study in the academics. It's a study in discernment, justice, and truth.
Yes, and that said, it does deal with some difficult case studies, and so it really is best only for your older students. However, they are going to love learning that science is not just theoretical. Science can be applied, and it can be applied in the area of justice.
Absolutely.
Let's also talk about the Dr. Livingston Thorax puzzle. So this puzzle is over 500 pieces, and it's at basically double of life size. So it's a fantastic way for your student to gain an understanding of lungs, trachea, heart, and so much more. It's a very simple, peaceful puzzle in the design. However, there's the diagram inside the box to help you understand what everything is and connect it with your science studies. Puzzles can be a super brain break for older students, and they can also be a brain stretcher. So this puzzle is a win-win-win. Reinforce the science, relax, and stretch your brain.
Next, let's take a look at STEM. So first off, we've got Unity Game Programming. This course teaches all the required programming skills and game design concepts from the ground up, but it is fast-paced, so it's recommended for technically confident students. If you've got a student who's not as confident in their technical skills, you can hop onto our customizer and swap it out for an easier programming course. This is going to be a full high school programming credit. It's teaching things like C#, game physics, animation. It's going to use Unity engine. So again, a lot of different versatile skills that they are going to be able to take and apply elsewhere, even if game design is not in their career future. Doesn't require any coding background. Solid computer skills are required. We love the way CompuScholar teaches these courses, because not only is the instruction easy to follow and well written, but it also includes great examples and everything that your team needs to do it right there in the program. It teaches the full project life cycle from design to coding to testing, and helps them to learn how to think like a developer. So a lot of great skills here, a lot of executive functioning, attention to detail. Coding teaches things that are difficult to teach in a workbook format. So you really have to have attention to detail. You really have to plan ahead. And those are things that are really easily taught and really thoroughly taught in a coding type program.
Next, let's take a look at Hidden Systems, which is a graphic novel exploring the hidden infrastructure that surrounds us, whether that's electricity, water, the internet. Science and STEM surrounds us every day, but often we don't take the time to think about it. And especially for high schoolers who have grown up with so much at their fingertips, they may not have stopped to think through, wait a minute, how did this get here? Hidden Systems will help your student think through the science and STEM around them. It will also help them to think through a little bit of the history of it and how that history has impacted different people differently. So why do some people have access to internet for years before others do? How does that work? So much that your student is going to learn, and it's going to give him a perspective to marvel at the world around him, of really the technological and scientific wonders that we too often take for granted. Your teen is sure to be impacted by an engine, car engine, a bus engine, but perhaps your living room doesn't quite have the space for him to rebuild a clunker in. So we've got you covered. We have the turbocharged engine. This engine is so solid, such incredible quality. I mean, that's when your teen assembles it, that's really what's going to strike you, is the incredible weight and feel and quality of the pieces. And it's going to help your teen understand how engines work. It's got some cool features, sounds and things that are fun, but really what's outstanding is that he will be building it. He'll be able to see, to visualize some of how it works, and again, the incredible quality that went into it.
Okay, next let's take a look at art. So one of the practical art components we have this year is Graphic Design 101. This is a half-credit graphic design course that's going to teach your student real design skills. It's got video lessons by a working graphic designer, plus it's going to have some video clips of student workshop critiques, so that way they can see how other projects were critiqued and kind of learn from that also. It's going to teach 7 elements of design. It's got things like color theory, the full design process from the messy idea to a polished piece. It's just a very practical look at graphic design. Whether or not your student has an aspiration to go into graphic design, they're going to run into different portions of this in real life. Whether you're designing a business card or actually working on a website, or just doing basic things like maybe designing a birthday card that you're trying to do. This is going to give you some more skills for understanding how color and how font and how different components work together and how to create something beautiful. So again, we love that a student can be learning these creative ideas in such a way that it is not only strengthening their brain and giving them a creative outlet, it's also giving them a life skill that they can take and use to bless others.
That's funny, Sam. Very funny. I'll try not to take that personally. Hey guys, and welcome back to Graphic Design 101, Lesson 3, File Management.
Yeah, so on the original one, it used the sans serif font, but on the new one, used the serif font, which is really fitting for that time period because that's when they were using all these decorative fonts. So it's a really good choice of font for that.
Mm-hmm. I also really liked how I thought at first when I looked at it that it was 2 sisters, but then I realized, oh wait, there's 4 because you use positive and negative space.
Next, we have a really fun hands-on kit. This is the Walnut Kuksa Cup Carving Kit. And carving is just a totally different skill that your teen may or may not have already had experience with. This is going to assume that they don't, but it doesn't matter if they already do. They can jump in and do this either way. It's going to have everything they need to create this traditional Kuksa cup from a walnut blank. Step-by-step instructions. It's a beautiful finished product. And what a fun variety of skills, again, to say, here's another creative outlet. Here's another skill that you might not know you have with all the components you need.
Yes, and again, what a phenomenal thing for your student to be able to say, hey, I can make these as gifts, or hey, I know a way I could turn this into a business and make these. So super way to empower him to think about what else could I do with this skill. Last off in art, we have the Seashell Shore. So that is a 3D textured painting. Again, we really want teenagers to realize that there are a variety of art forms that they can be successful at and that they can enjoy. This one is very unique because it layers paint, textured with sand. You've got shells. You've topped it off.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It is absolutely gorgeous, and it's very unique. Several of the art skills in here are unique. Put them together in combination, it feels really unique and outstanding.
Next, we have some really practical components for you. The 52 Essential Interview Skills is a card deck with over 200 real-world interview questions that will help your teen to think through what their answers would be if they were asked this question, and really help them to feel prepared, whether they are planning to go in for a college interview or whether they are scheduling a first job interview or internship prep. This is going to give them some skills and some poise and reassurance, so that way they don't have to be as anxious about what questions might they be asked. They've already practiced and they have a lot of thought behind their answers already now. It goes far beyond the tell me about yourself and pushes deep, thoughtful answers. So we really appreciate, again, some critical thinking and some life skill here.
All right, so how do you expect to plan for this 12th grade year? Well, that's where the high school planner will come in, and this is really dual purpose. For one thing, with the monthly and weekly calendars and the goal setting pages, it's a great way for you to map out what you expect to do throughout the year. Really, your student can independently begin working on doing that goal setting himself, all in one place. Then, alongside that, it's a wonderful way to track what actually happens. This is super helpful for graduation prep, transcript prep, everything you need, all of your records, all in one place. this is designed to go alongside with our Timberdoodle handbook. So our handbooks include quick overviews of each item, how we expect them to be used, some ideas for scheduling, and it also includes access to the wonderful online scheduler. Grace, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, so this is one of my favorite parts of the handbook is getting to use the scheduler because it will help you set up what your week should look like. And then you can print it out either as a weekly checklist or as a daily checklist, whichever works best for your team. But they can sit down, set up, here's how they want to do their year of homeschooling, and they can set up breaks. They can set up if they want to do a more, if they want to do it year round, or if they want to do the typical 36 weeks. They have all that flexibility to say, no, I want to do it for 30 weeks, so I've got a couple catch-up weeks built in. Whatever they want to do for their schedule, they can put that in, and then they can set up not only their curriculum items, but they can add in, well, I'm also volunteering here, or I'm working on music, and so I want to make sure I've got practice time scheduled on there. They can set all that up on the checklist and then print it out either as a daily or as a weekly schedule.
Yes, and you can also track online if you prefer
Absolutely.
to do that instead of printing out.
Yes, so a lot of flexibility there. Most families like the flexibility of the weekly schedule because it lets you kind of shift. If you've got a crazy day of sports, or you've got a crazy day with appointments or something, you don't have to run off a day-by-day schedule. You can run off a weekly schedule. But then there are some students who really thrive on that. No, I know I did what I need to do today, and now I'm free to go work on my hobbies. This sets them up for success either way and teaches them that executive functioning skill of here's what you need to do, and you manage this, and you get this done. So kind of what we like to think of as a friendly GPS for everything in your kit. It also includes the reading challenge. And this is a really practical way to help your student to broaden the horizons of what they're reading. It gives you different recommendations, not only for themes and subjects, but also to give your students a few recommendations out of those different themes that they can pick, as well as different reading levels. So they can pick a reading level, whether that's the basic reading level or whether they're going to try to do an advanced reading level and hit that many books this year. It gives them a place to be tracking that along with the recommendations.
Yes, because you know and your student knows that reading is important, but it's easy to let it go by the wayside or only read in certain genres if you're not intentional about it. And this is a tool simply to help you be intentional about your students' reading this year.
All right, I think that covers everything. As always, if you have any questions or need help customizing a curriculum kit, or if you want to do the placement test, hop online. You can reach us via chat, via email, via phone. We are here to help, and we hope you have a wonderful homeschool year.
Thank you for joining us.